Hello everyone, and welcome to the Single Parent TV show, brought to you by Christ Our Shepherd Ministries. My name is Jennifer Dow, and we are here bringing you fresh perspective and real solutions to today's single parent. And today I have with me Patricia Crawford. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And Patricia, you've come to us. We're going to be talking about schedules today, but before we go into that, Patricia comes from an IT background. She has her bachelor's and an associate's in the IT field, so you're well acquainted with schedules and specific things that have to be done a certain way.
Absolutely.
You're a single parent of 2 boys, right?
Yes.
Yes, and then another girl and a boy, but they're a different kind of child. They're puppies, right?
Exactly, yes, okay. Yes. I'm glad you remembered my children, my hairy children, I call them.
Your other children, you can't forget those.
Yeah, thank you.
And so tell me a little bit about what has brought you here on a single parent TV show talking about schedules.
Okay, I'm happy to tell you that, Jennifer. Mm-hmm. I came to Christ Our Shepherd Ministries through a reference from a friend. Mm-hmm. We worked with a ministry for the single parents for computer training. And basically what that training class would do is prepare the single parents to get back into the workforce. Mm-hmm. I love volunteerism, and that's been a passion for me for some time. And previously to meeting Julie, John, and coming to Christ Our Shepherd, I had a ministry with the Matthews Library where I was servicing senior citizens, and I was training the senior citizens on the computer. And a friend came to me and said they thought that there would be a great opportunity for me within the Matthews community, and suggested that I contact Julie John. Once I sat down with Julie and she told me about the ministry here at Christ Our Shepherd, I thought this was the perfect place for me. And we started talking, and then I started telling her a little bit about my story, and she said, well, this is fantastic. I wonder if you'd do me a favor. And we started talking, and she told me a little bit about this network that you guys have, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful, and I thought this would be a great way to, again, share my gifts with the community, the gifts that God has given me, and just grow His network. So that's why I'm here today.
Good. Well, it's awesome to have you here again. Now, on to the topic of schedules.
Okay.
They can be the most frustrating and the most helpful, or the most scary, or all the different things that they can be, but why are they important? Tell us a little bit about what you think about that.
Well, I don't know, Jennifer, you've got children as well as I do. Now, right now, my children are a lot older now, but I remember when they were younger with me working and then going to school. Nowadays, you can go to school at your computer at your home, in your bedroom, and in your pajamas. When I first went back to school, I was actually going into the school, so I would work a full day, go to school directly after work, and so I would get home rather late in the evening, and then I would have to check homework for children, and then prepare for the next day. At that point, I realized that scheduling was very important for me, because it allowed me an opportunity to get the most important things done, or get everything we needed done, and also to have quality time for a family. I needed to make sure that we did everything by a schedule, because time goes very quickly, and you should know that. Before you look up, an hour's gone by, 2 hours have gone by, and you've accomplished nothing. So I thought...
Except for being on Facebook.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you could spend days on Facebook. I think some people sit on Facebook. I don't know if they even go to sleep at night. They sit on there all night long. But yeah, because I've got a 21-year-old, and believe me, I know about the Facebook craze.
You know you do it.
Yeah, I do it. And I'm going to tell you, it's funny, because that was one thing, too, when I was in school online, that was the way we kept in touch with one another on the Facebook. So you can really get carried away from one link to the other, to one IM, and so on and so forth. And our days go like that as well. You have to run an errand, you're cooking meals. Before you know it, the end of the day is here, and you're wondering, what have I accomplished? Mm-hmm. So I found that we really needed schedules, and I'm not a schedule stickler. Before I had children, I was very impulsive, if it's in my head, and it sounds good, I'm going to do it. But once I had children and my schedule started to increase the things that I had to do, I realized that I wasn't getting much accomplished. Mm-hmm. And I was losing contact and losing touch with my family. Mm-hmm. So we really had to buckle down and get a schedule, and I had to put my children on a schedule too in terms of schoolwork, so they knew that they had to have their schoolwork done by a certain time, because a lot of times I was zipping in and we were getting ready and going, and we had to be out by a certain time and back by a certain time. What I want to caution you, though, before we go any further, is if there's anybody listening that thinks that they should have a schedule, or they're punishing themselves because they don't have a schedule, don't worry so much about it, because a schedule is nice to have to keep you focused and to keep you grounded, but
accountable, really.
Accountable, right. But I would also say, don't try to punish yourself and feel like you have to stick to a schedule all the time. Sometimes it's good to do some things impulsively. Sometimes you're not going to be able to stick to your schedule. Right. I've found that a lot. And so you just pick up and you do what you have to do. But one of the things that we did when I found that my schedule was very busy is we would actually schedule quality time. When I was going to school full time and I felt like I wasn't spending enough time with my children, we actually scheduled a day, and we would stay and we would schedule a day. We would play games, we would order pizza, we would pop popcorn, and we would spend time together. So I think that if we didn't have the schedule, even that time would get away from us.
Yeah, so I'm definitely hearing you say that it's important to schedule everything, but just a little bit backwards on the importance of schedule. Two things came to my mind, two stories. One story that just describing like what a schedule does for somebody, and I want to hear what you think about this, is I had a pastor tell me, and actually I think it was from an excerpt from a book, and this guy was describing boundaries, and I kind of see a schedule as boundaries in a way for everybody, but like, for example, if you were to have a day without boundaries, you just did whatever, it's like you're on a playground with no fence. You can just play on the playground, or you can run off the playground, or you can come back on, or do whatever. But if you have boundaries, it's like a playground with a fence around it. So you can stay on the playground, and then you are free to do the very best that you can do on that playground and not have to worry about conquering everything that's outside of the fence.
Exactly.
Because you worry about what's in the parameters of the fence. And it was specifically talking about children and how they like to have boundaries of what's right and what's wrong. You know, what's okay with, discipline stuff, but that's a different show.
Well, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I know when you look at your life, and when you look at with your children too, if you don't have a schedule, you may tend to spend more time on certain things or not enough time on other things, and like you said, your time will just totally slip out the window. Yeah. So it's always good, I think, to have some boundaries with everything. Yeah.
It also reminded me of this story. Well, really not a story, but every time I want my kids to pick up, I will say, okay, let's see who can pick up the fastest, and they go crazy. And one day I just sat back and was just watching them bustle around just fast, and I noticed something. They were moving their bodies really, really fast, but they weren't actually putting the toys into the box any faster. It was like they were moving their arm really, really fast, but it was like, and then they would get there, and it made me realize, I'm like, just because you're moving fast does not mean that you're accomplishing more.
Exactly.
And it was revolutionary to me.
Exactly.
And I think that could be another thing that makes schedules so important.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I do. I agree with you, and it's interesting that you say that, because I know it was a time where I felt like I was very overextended, and I was volunteering for this, I was volunteering for that, and I had to stop and think, there's quality and then there's quantity, and sometimes you may spend a lot of time doing things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's quality stuff. And so that's why I do agree a schedule. I think a schedule is really good because it makes you focus on what's the quality stuff, what are the priorities, how am I spending my time, and what are their priorities. And if you do have a schedule, then you can easily weed out the fluff. You can more easily, I'll say. I won't say it's foolproof.
It's hard.
I won't say it's foolproof, but I do say that it's easier to weed out the fluff, because if you have a schedule, you can see where your time is being spent.
Yeah. I think one thing you said about weeding out the fluff and knowing what the important things are. So what if you don't know? Where do you start? Do you start with goal setting, or do you start with, what do you start with?
Well, I don't know about you, but I know that for me, because a lot of my activities were focused around my children, that's where I started.
Yeah.
I started looking at the things that they needed to do, and I started prioritizing what were the most important things.